Journey to Queendom, the sacred space where survival ends and sovereignty begins. I'm your host, Marci J. Duncan, and this is where we lay down the cape of overachievement, code switching, and self doubt, and we pick up the crown of softness, wholeness, and authenticity. In each episode, we're going to peel back the layers of that hustle culture, perfectionism, and we're going to look at the pain too. But we're going to rediscover joy, vulnerability, intimacy, and freedom. This is not just a podcast, it's a reclamation, reclaiming your authentic self. So, if you're ready to stop shrinking and start queening, you're in the right place. Let's begin the journey. Hey, everybody. Marci Duncan here. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm so excited that you carved out some time to come and sit and chat with me on this episode of Journey to Queendom. I'm so excited that you're here. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how hustle culture and survival mode, they're a scam. It's a scam. Okay. I'm just going to put out a spoiler alert. It is a scam. Now, if you are on a journey to discover who you really are, your authentic self, and you want to show up in this world more authentically, and there's a disconnect between who you were, who you are now, and how you want to become or who you want to become. There's a disconnect. This episode is for you. I highly encourage you to go and listen to the other episodes where we really set up this journey that I'm on, that I've been on since 2022. And I am still on this journey. And I just want to share with you some of the things that I've learned, some of the things that have helped me to step into my inheritance. And my inheritance, I believe, is that of queendom, of royalty, right? This all started when I was in therapy, on this journey, trying to figure out what is going on with my life, what's happening. And my therapist asks me, she said, what if you are in direct lineage to a queen? What if royalty was in your bloodline? What if you find out that you are the direct ancestor of an African queen? How would that change your life? How would that change the way you show up in the world? How would that change the way that you treat yourself, the way that you think about yourself? And how do you know that that's not true? How do you know? You could be a direct descendant of a queen, which therefore makes you royalty. And this, friends, this started a quest for me. It really did hit home. It hit home, and it made me start to think about my life and how I show up in the world. And I wanted to figure this thing out because there were some moments in my life that it wasn't coming together. I was having issues at work. I was having issues in my marriage. I was having issues within myself, experiencing, anxiety and panic attacks and depression. And all of these things were fairly new for me. I had always been that strong woman, that superhero Black woman who swoops in to save the day, has the answer for everything, organizes everything, a high achiever, smart Black woman, articulate Black woman. But that identity was starting to feel fake to me. It didn't feel organic to me. And so I decided that I was going to figure out who I was, whose I was, and how that will affect the way that I show up in my everyday life for the time that I have left on this earth. And so you're here. You are here because you are interested in that too. So let's get into it. Last week or last episode, I began to talk about how my therapist used a procedure or a therapeutic exercise, and it's called EMDR. And a lot of you wanted to know what exactly that was because I really didn't explain it in the episode. And this procedure was done because I came to her and I explained to her that I was having severe panic attacks surrounding the PET scan that I had to go through for a medical diagnosis. And so we were trying to get to the bottom of it and why I was feeling so anxious and having these panic attacks surrounding this procedure. So she tried this exercise on me, and it's called EMDR, and it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Okay, so here's what it is. This is a type of therapy and a structured psychotherapy procedure or exercise for PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, and other distressing experiences. It involves processing traumatic memories and associated thoughts and feelings by focusing on a specific stimulus while recalling the experience. Okay, so she suggested that I do this exercise because the type of panic that I had when I was going into the PET scan machine was abnormal. And she believed, or she guessed or hypothesized that it had something to do with a traumatic experience that I was repressing. So that's why she chose to take me through this process. So, how does it work? Okay, EDMR is believed to work by processing the trauma with both sides of the brain stimulated. The bilateral stimulation, like eye movements or tapping, and for my case, we did tapping, it helps the memory become unstuck and allows the brain to reprocess and integrate the information. Okay, so that's how it works. So, like I said before, I put on these headphones and I was listening to a tone. They were very, very faint. So, I really had to concentrate to hear the tone in my ear. I listened to a tone, and whichever side of the ear that I heard it on, I tapped that corresponding hand because I had these like sensors on my fingers. And so, if I heard the tone in my left ear, I would tap my left finger, right? And so, this, along with reprogramming my fears that came out of this session with a different thought pattern, right? So if I articulated a fear, let's say it was, I feel like I'm going to die, then I would reprogram, or the therapist would take me through a process of reprogramming that thought with, God is with me, I am safe. Right? So every time that I would say, I feel like I'm going to die, now I have a new stimuli, which is, God is with me, I am safe. Right? So that was the procedure. In addition to that procedure, it helped me to recall the exact traumatic event that then me going into this PET scan machine ignited, the trigger that it ignited. And it helped me to connect the dots and therefore helped me to debunk, to disempower the fear that it had over me, right? That forced my nervous system to go into protective mode to try to protect me. So now I could ease my nervous system and say, I'm safe. God is with me, because this traumatic situation is not this. Right? Now, if you want to hear more about that, go listen to the last episode. But I wanted to clear that up for this episode because it does add a bit of context to the idea of survival mode. Now, because of those types of associations in my life, because of those types of association, I was always living my life out of a sense of survival, right? Because of the situations and things that have happened to me in my life, those things that I shoved into the closet and closed the door, vowed to never look at again, don't talk about it, blah blah. Because of those things that I was working through in therapy, I was realizing that I was operating for the most part of my life out of survival. And let me tell you what that is, okay? Survival mode is a state of prolonged stress where a person's body and mind are constantly on high alert, prioritizing immediate survival over any other need. In essence, it's a prolonged state of the body's natural fight or flight response. So, in essence, my body was in perpetual fight or flight mode. Now, was I aware of this? No, I was not. I was absolutely not aware of this. But I'm going to tell you what was aware: my body. My body was aware. Now, I was not able to connect the dots outside of therapy as to why I was always on high alert, why I was always needing to feel control over a situation. You know, sometimes if I knew that something was coming up, like something big that had the potential to ignite some fear, like a big performance, or I'm going on a trip with my husband's family, and I don't really know them that well, and it ignites some anxiety and some fear from my side. I didn't really understand why I needed to imagine that scenario in my brain from beginning to end. The packing, the ride up there, the moments on the trip. I needed to go through that in my mind so that I can calm my nervous system down. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time, but I'm now I'm able to kind of um intuit that. So I have to go through this thing in my mind in order to calm my nervous system and gain a sense of control that, okay, I can do this. I'm moving outside of my comfort zone, which is my house, which is my car, which is the places that I feel safe in, going to a place where I don't necessarily know the environment, and it kind of freaks me out a little bit. So I needed to go through those steps in my mind in order to regain a sense of control. So I needed to have a sense of control, right? Every decision that I was making was out of survival. It was out of that fight or flight. I was on high alert because I had this constant feeling that I needed to protect myself, that I needed to speak up for myself, that I need to make sure nobody was taking advantage of me, that I needed to make sure that my opinion is heard and my voice is heard. I needed to make sure that the room is calm, right? So it's my responsibility to make sure the room is calm. I needed to make sure that everybody was comfortable and everybody was having a good time. So again, it's my responsibility to make sure that happens. If there's a lull in conversation, I need to feel it. I need to make sure that all is well. Everybody's having a good time. So nobody is really looking at me and how uncomfortable I really am, right? This is what I was doing all the time. I didn't really understand it. I didn't really know it, but this is what I was doing, right? From childhood to high school to my adult life. This survival mode became more and more and more integrated into my life, into my psyche, into my personality, into the way in which I thought about things, in the way in which I saw the world, right? Me against the world. And I got to make sure that I look out for me at all cost. Yeah. The other thing I realized is um, when I was in college, I'm going to skip a little bit. When I was in college, I got pregnant my senior year in college. I was not married. And at that time, I said at that time, but whatever. I got pregnant and I was a senior in college and I was a Christian, right? And I was very heavily in church, very heavy in religion. And I'm going to say religion because at that time in my life, that's what it was. It wasn't a personal relationship with Christ, it was just religion, rules, regulations, what I need to do, what I don't need to do, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I'm in high school. So I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with that because everybody out there having sex, everybody out there drinking and smoking and having a good time. And I, of course, am surrounded by that kind of stuff all the time. And so there was a constant um, guilt that I had because I was partaking in some of these things. And I knew in my mind that that was against the rules. I knew that that was wrong. And I knew that I would be judged if it were to ever come out that I was participating in some of these things, right? My mom was a minister, right? In the church, a leader in the church. We went to church every Sunday. So it would hit different if I were to be found out that I was participating in some of these things. So it came out. I got pregnant. And of course, that was very difficult to hide. And so I had to come out. I had to say, I had to acknowledge that I made this mistake, right? And because I am learning how to operate in survival mode in my brain, this was something that I had to fix. To catch part two, tune in next week. Thank you for walking this stretch of the journey with me. If something in today's episode stirred your spirit, share this episode with a sister. Leave a review or connect with me on social media. Remember, your softness is sacred. Your healing is your birthright. And your queendom, it's already within you. Until next time, keep rising and claim your inheritance. This podcast was brought to you by Artist at Play, nurturing the artist within.